If you handed this to every member of an orchestra and asked them to play it, it would sound like this. And you'd think to yourself, that sounds like a howler monkey who got his tail stuck in a wood chipper. That's because many instruments are transposing instruments, for reasons that are enumerated in another video. Instruments are calling notes by different names, and this causes problems. If you walked over to the piano and played this E above middle C, the horns would call that a B, the B-flat trumpets would call it an F sharp, the alto sax would call it a C sharp, an A clarinet would call it a G, and a percussionist might think it indicated a kick drum, or perhaps they may wonder why there's anything written in their score at all. That's because these are all written pitches, and they cause confusion and anger, and they make young composers look like complete amateurs. So how could you refer to this one pitch so that all players unambiguously know which pitch it is? By referring to this as concert E, you and everyone involved know that you're referring to the sounding pitch, and not what any one player may have in their part. That is, except for the C instruments, which are always reading in concert pitch. Getting everyone in the same key isn't enough, though. You need everyone in tune. So get exactly one oboe to play a tuning note. If you ask two oboes to do it, you'll end up with two different pitches. Two very similar pitches, probably, but two different pitches nonetheless. The oboe has a penetrating tone, leading the French to name it loud wood. Its piercing tone, along with its relatively stable pitch, makes it a nice instrument for orchestras to tune to. Oboes can play a B-flat for all the brass and woodwinds, and then an A for all the strings. That is, of course, if they all agree on the frequency of concert A. In 17th century Europe, no attempt was made at a pitch standard. This makes sense. They couldn't even agree on a standard time until 1884, and even then, France still somehow managed to be 9 minutes and 21 seconds off of everyone else. But pitch could also vary within the same city, depending on which church your organ was in. And in fact, the pitch of a single organ was constantly changing. Organ pipes are susceptible to all sorts of things that knock them out of tune. So tuners would either have to hammer or flare out the ends of pipes in order to get them to tune with the rest of the pipes. And eventually you have to cut links off of every pipe, which permanently alters the tuning system. Of course, other instruments use different tuning systems. When played poorly, a single bagpipe can sound like stepping on an entire family of cats. Then consider that each set of pipes can be tuned anywhere from 435 to 485 depending on the humidity, and you can see why a group of them played together was used as a weapon of war. Then tuning forks came along in 1711, but this helped almost nothing. Different tuning forks in the 18th century ranged anywhere from A equals 400 to A equals 450. Then in the 19th century, instrumentalists started raising the pitch of their instruments to sound more brilliant than their rivals. This pitch inflation led to many vocalists getting throat injuries from straining their voice. This led to the French government passing a law that said that A equals 435. Then, in 1918, world leaders gathered together after the bloodiest war in human history to determine a few things. They all agreed that 1. Germany had to shrink its army, 2. We should start a League of Nations, and 3. While we're at it, let's just agree to a standard pitch. Then, in 1955, the International Organization of Standardization officially made A equals 440, which we now know today as concert pitch. The difference between that one and the one agreed to at Versailles has to do with confusion over what temperature A should be measured at. Either way, this allowed all instruments across countries to play in tune with one another. Every instrument, that is, except for the bagpipes. Thanks for watching this episode of 2 Minute Music Theory. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. Also be sure to check out my other channel, Jesse Strickland Music, which is home to all of my compositions. And if you're the kind of person who uses social media, be sure to connect with me over there.